Cool. So welcome to the first of the new year Career for Professionals call. We have some new players here today. Just to let you know what we do with the Career Professionals call each month is we send it out to our list of people that have engaged us for career coaching and have even been part of the career coaching curriculum or mindset or where we're headed in our careers in the past. So you're always invited to the Career Professionals call even after your sessions expire. You're going to get that added benefit, because we want you to be connected to the network here and then also keep us abreast of what's going on. And I do some group coaching in this ongoing as well as provide strategy. And so just a couple shout outs to the people that are regulars. Dewey, Happy New Year, dude. Haven't seen you in a while. Well, since our holiday party, right?
Oh yeah, our wild holiday party online.
Our wild online holiday party. That was crazy that night. So
We had fun.
We did have fun. It was awesome. The scavenger hunt was the best, seeing people just like bolt from their chair and go and get the stuff.
Yeah.
I couldn't participate, but I ran that one, so that was fun. And Lucas is new in our coaching curriculum. He's doing some great things. Lucas is updating his LinkedIn and his resume, and then also has had a lot of interviews. Congratulations on the interview yesterday, Lucas.
Thank you.
Sounds like it went well. And if you can see in his background, he happens to be a musician as well. And so, Lucas, if you could share with the group, because we never know who's listening and who will be listening and where the open doors can come. Where are you right now in your career, and what are you looking for?
Right now, I'm between positions. I was laid off back in March due to the pandemic, but I'm looking for either revenue or business operations management spots or a customer success manager role.
That's awesome. And you have over 15 years experience with this. He's also in the Austin area, so he can do 100% remote online, or if there's a wonderful company in the Austin area, then he's very eager to join them as well, right? You've been doing some great interviews with some companies that are just rock solid. So yeah. Here we go. Cool, thanks. And Narjit is joining us also. He is participating. Hello, Ms. Kara. He's participating in the New Year launch, so he's going to get 3 sessions to start him off. And Narjit, if you could also give a little bit of a background of where you are, what you're up to, and what you would love, we'd love to hear.
Sure. Well, my name's Narjit. I've worked in high performance computing for the longest time right now, and also a little bit in cloud as well. And yeah, I'm also between jobs, you could say. I left Microsoft in August of the last year. Just things didn't work out there so well. So I'd like to find, of course, something hopefully better coming up in the near future. So I'm here for that reason.
Awesome. And I'm going to unmute you. Okay. I just hear a little bit of background noise that it went away. So thank you, Narjit. And you're in the Sugar Land area?
That's right, in Sugar Land, yep. But I lived in Austin last year also, so yeah, about 1.5 years in Houston now.
Cool, awesome. We're having beautiful weather today. I'm liking it. Last couple of days have been real rainy. And we've got Bimal on, and Bimal, I love working with Bimal. He's a wonderful professional. And Bimal, if you could share, by the way, those people that are joining, we have something up in the chat, just letting you know that we are recording, and we can share this with other people from time to time. If you want your likeness, your picture to be different, you can change that, or even your name. And so Bimal, if you could share where you're currently working and your role, and then what you would love. Of course, this is all confidential. Whatever you feel like sharing, it's all beautiful. What would you share, Bimal?
Sure. So hi, everyone. I work at Weatherford. It's an oil services company based in Houston. And I've been with Weatherford for several years now, almost getting close to 2 decades, I believe. So I'm the director of product management at production automation and software group. So in my portfolio of products, I have a bunch of automation equipment, controllers, sensors, you name it, that goes on oil field, wells out in the field, and also software, enterprise software products for SCADA as well as for production optimization.
Awesome. And you also are over the customer happiness journey, as we would put that, for those
Yes,
software experiences, because you're also over the BDMs, which are the business development managers
absolutely.
globally that
Yes.
are that customer facing unit, right?
Correct. So we have about 8 geozones globally that we do business in. So I work with the, what we call them as geozone business managers on their respective geozones and all the customers that they represent. And so being a large service organization, oilfield services company, we do business with just about every kind of oil company in the world, small and medium businesses, all the way to the IOCs and the NOCs. So the strategies and how we interface with these customers varies depending on the global region, as well as the types of companies that their customers are. It's way different working with an NOC, where you're pretty much you only have one customer that you're servicing, as against say in North America space, where you may have hundreds, if not thousands, of different customers. So
Right.
different strategies.
When you say NOC, what does that mean?
National oil companies. So these are basically companies like Saudi Aramco, ADNOC. These are companies that are owned by the governments. And so therefore in those countries, they're the only company that's doing business in oil and gas, right? So you only have one customer at the end of the day.
Yeah. And in fact, Kara, she's nodding because she knows this. Kara is one of our coaches. And Kara just came back from Saudi Arabia. So welcome back to the Houston area, also known as Magnolia or Montgomery, right? In the Montgomery area. And you were working in Saudi Arabia for about a year with the Saudi Electric Company, right? Yeah. Do you want to share any words from your side of a new year, what you're doing, what you're looking forward to?
Sure. It's good to be back in the States, I must say that. It was an adventure in Saudi Arabia, but I'm returning and working on my coaching business. I have a background in communications. I do training and facilitation as well as instructional design. And so I was doing instructional design in Saudi. COVID, of course, made things crazy, so I decided to come back. And that's where my focus is to be able to build my coaching business and help people as best as I can. I know how much Bonfire has helped me get to where I am, and was thrilled to be able to join the group as well. So if there's anything that we can do to help y'all, we're here.
Definitely. And someone else has joined. I don't know who you are. It's a phone number. However, if you'd like to also unmute and just say hello, you have the opportunity.
Yes, hi. This is Leisha Cosgrove. I'm on my phone today without camera, and I'm glad to be here.
Yay!
Thanks.
Welcome, Leisha. And so,
Hi, Leisha.
Leisha's been with us for a while.
Hi, Pam.
Yay! And I'll be getting back with you on the project that we're working on. So, I have you on my list to call today, Leisha. Cool.
Fabulous. Thanks.
Thank you. And so, what I want to focus our call on today is this thing that we call distance connections. We are now forced into different ways to communicate and be, either as leaders with our teams or as team players with our teams and our leadership. Either way, our communications as of last about March got a little bit more difficult. And I, along with one of my other coaches, Hannah, have been brought into organizations to help teach of how do we relate to one another, how do we manage conflict, communications, projects, expectations in this place where a lot of our communications are being done even more so now from a distance standpoint, either through texting, email, or Teams where we're meeting like this on Zoom. And so I wanted to open that conversation with us, and I prepared a little bit of a PowerPoint, so I'll step us through this. And then toward the end, there is a participation so that we can have a conversation about what you're learning, what you're seeing, where are any struggles that you're having right now, or even methods that you've learned have worked through the COVID form of communications. And Leisha, I'm going to go ahead and lower your hand. I think that was a previous raising of hand. If you do have any questions or any comments, or if you have takeaways and you hear something in the presentation that's hits home and you want to reinforce that, by all means, please do use the chat to do that, because we can keep in contact through the chat and build our energies there. So this is about soft skills. The hard skills, as we know, are those things that we can say we put on a resume. We definitely know how to do it. It's a skill set certification, degree that we're hired for to perform and do. And yet soft skills are more than likely 85 to 90% of the glue that is between those harder skills that we must learn to master and manage, not only for ourselves, but the people we also communicate with. So today is working apart, and how do we do that best? So in working with hundreds of people over this last year that have come into these struggles of communication, especially leaders, saying, how do I become a better leader here? I do not want to become a micromanager. Yet you can imagine, and myself included, whenever my team, we were working from our homes, we have communication styles that we were accustomed to prior. Simply walk down the hallway, or in my case with Pam, we've learned to knock on the wall. And yes, Pam, you can laugh now because I'm knocking, and she's like, does that mean you want me in there? What is that? Knock on the wall, you can hear that. We had ways to find energy with each other because we're in proximity. And that adds to collaboration, more clear communication, because we can pick up body language, things of that nature. But whenever we're working in a distance relationship, we need to put on a different hat. So the first point here is to act as if we are in person. So how do we do that, Tina Marie? If we're not in person, how do we act as if? Those things that we are accustomed to, we want to maintain as best as possible. I did some training for one of the larger groups within Siemens Energy. And whenever I did that training, I'd say about 80% of 100 people literally came to the class with just their name and a dark screen. And I was asking questions. Why do you have your camera off? And they had been in quarantine for a couple months. So certain habits had started to develop. And those habits were, one lady said, I just stay in my yoga gear all day long. I work out in the morning and I don't change until I need to go to take a shower or go to bed. And she said, I really haven't done my hair. I don't want to do that. I haven't worn makeup in months. So the ability to be off camera and out of sight may be comfortable for us as an individual in our lifestyle. However, it disconnects whenever we're working in a Zoom environment or Teams environment, or wanting to communicate with our peers and our cohorts, even our clients, future customers, i.e. prospects, and definitely our management. So we want to start putting back into practice, if you have dropped out in any way, those things that were habits whenever we were getting up, getting ready, getting in the car, getting on the bus, on the train, getting to work, showing up in an office. We want to re-engage those great habits of getting ready and being ready for our career. Why? It's energy. The energy of being present and looking present and being willing to be present is going to change your future and change the opportunities you have as a leader, as a career professional, to get advancement. And I guarantee, whenever I worked with that Siemens group, I did some evaluation. I said, so who among this team, if you were to do reviews today, are going to get promotions and be considered for those upper mobility positions? And every single one of the directors within that training that I worked with said the people that I can see and I know I'm connecting with, and they're showing up and they're ready to go. So we want to act as if we are in person with people. We want to beware assumptions. This is a huge one. Without communications, without the proximity, it's interesting to see how assumptions come into play so easily. And I liken it to, of all things, this is just it's a bad analogy, but you'll get it, is that if we begin to not be so mindful about leaving food out, or not closing containers in our pantry, or, not cleaning up after ourselves, if we begin to get a little lazy there, what happens is roaches come in, bugs, things of that nature come into our household. And then we have a problem we have to take care of. And then we reinstill the habit of putting things away, cleaning up after ourselves, and being more tidy. Well, assumptions are just like that. Using pronouns, which is one of my pet peeves. When people use pronouns to describe a person or a group, he, she, they, her, him, It's a lazy form of communication and use of language that can allow the person who's listening to form assumptions about how things are going. Or if we just do a blanket the project versus a phase of the project or a piece of what's being worked on or a work effort, the more assumptions we start to be lazy with, the lack of clarity in the discussion and the missed expectations. And that's what leads to many conflicts in communications with corporate professionals. We also want to be very acknowledging. By the way, if any of this is hitting home, if this is like, yeah, this is a really good one, or that happened to me yesterday, or anything like that, just drop it in the chat so we can have some communications in that energy as well. Be acknowledging. This is, if you've been in the bonfire method and you know about this, we begin with wins and we end with what are our top takeaways, right? We also show you how to live above the line. Above the line is that what's the energy rich state? Whenever we are in an energy rich state, we can communicate and find clarity with one another. And the best way to do that is to acknowledge our peers, our management, and even ourselves of where we're making progress. Where's the progress? What can we say thank you for? What can we say good job for? And yes, we can say that verbally. What I challenge you to do is to follow up with that with a written note. I've got a lot of buzzing and beeping going on. Follow up with a written note to the people that you work with, especially your management. I don't know. I mean, many of you are here on the call today are leaders. You have teams that you're responsible for and you work with. And isn't it interesting that typically the leadership are the last on the totem pole to get acknowledgement? It's almost like the team assumes that you know you're doing a good job. So it's really good whenever we get acknowledgement from our team that, hey, thank you for stepping up for me there. Thank you for helping to clarify that. Thank you for being available as a leader. And sometimes we do not get that acknowledgement from our teams and our team players. So what we must do as leaders is to exemplify that and be that first in the world. And so acknowledging them, I guarantee, will be a circular effect where they'll come back and acknowledge you as well. And it always feels good to get that, right? Also, while working in this lockdown, new Zoom environment, working from home, in fact, Bimal, have you seen or been in proximity of your team at all over this last going on a year come March?
Yeah, come March it'll be a year, absolutely. Haven't been in close proximity to any of my team members. It's always done through Teams.
Yeah. And how has that been for you as a leader? Because you've got a growing team. How's that been?
Yeah, so for me, I've been lucky in the sense that most of my team members have known them. So even the team members that I have added on, luckily have been people that I have known or have been within the organization. But I can see how if someone is new, then you don't have that rapport already. So when I'm having conversations with my team members on Teams, like online, right. It's I'm projecting myself like as if I'm with them because I've worked with them for many years. But I can see that over time we will get more disconnected if we don't have that personal touch, that face-to-face personal touch going on.
Yeah. What have been some of the problems that you've encountered with the Zoom-based connections and Teams-based connections?
So one of the things is a lot of distractions, right? I mean, we have network connectivity issues. We have, a lot of the technology issues, right? People, there are echoes that happen. We can't hear people properly. So it leads to a little bit of frustration, and especially when you're in calls all day, right, from morning till evening, it leads to a bit of, frustration at the end of the day. The other aspect is just for people to be mindful when they're on calls, right? They should mute themselves. If they get on video, make sure that they are not shirtless. That's happened to one of my team members.
Oh my goodness.
It was even worse because he was on a call with a customer and he was shirtless. So, things along those lines, right? We just need to be mindful, be professional. And I agree with you 100% that it may be that you're working from the comfort of your own home, but we shouldn't forget that we are still in a professional environment. So we need to continue to be focused and be aware of our surroundings and that we are in a professional environment while we are on these calls.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you. And yes, distractions have been a big player within our own mindsets of getting ourselves in a state of I am at work, because we can be within a home environment and feel that level of comfort, yet we must, as professionals, put on our, discipline of, and I know whenever I was working at home, I have an office, a home office, and I would shut the door. As soon as that door was shut and I was in my home office, the rest of my family members, including my dog, knew that I am at work, and please do not disturb me. And if you need to, you can call and leave a voicemail, literally from the second floor up to the third floor. You can leave a voicemail and I'll get back with you, right? So we need to have boundaries. That's one of the other slides that I have. Over communication is something that I've asked all my teams and all my professionals to do. It's not that we are wanting to prove, there's a certain energy there. So when I say over communicate, I don't mean prove every step of every moment of every hour a check-in with your management. It is a simple, at the end of the day, this is what progress I made today. This is what questions I have on my plate for tomorrow. This is what meetings I have remaining for the week. If you need me for any other thing that is not listed here, please let me know. Or for those that are, it's beneficial to have an in-office system that you're communicating your progress. And so be sure to update that and to give that clarity of the use of your time with this. I'll go back to the Siemens team. I've worked with many teams. However, this one had a lot of dynamics because they're in multiple countries at one time for this particular group. And they had 6 new cohorts that were added on within a month's time frame. It's a cybersecurity group, and cybersecurity over this last year has been very intense. And it's going to continue to be intense. In fact, if anybody wants to be in an up-and-coming industry that's going to position them long-term, cybersecurity is definitely one of those. And so this particular cohort of peers with 6 new additions in and learning how to learn each other's personality style, communication style, and they didn't want to bother their bosses. They're like, I don't want to bother. I don't want to keep emailing. I don't want to, keep asking for meetings. People have too many meetings right now. How do I best communicate with my management? So I said, do a status in the morning, do a status in the evening, and get into the habit of that so that your manager can see that. And if they read it, they read it. If they take it in, great. If they don't, at least they see that you are communicating and you're not doing what that other one says, is assuming that everybody knows what you're working on, because we do not want to leave it to assumption. Over communication is best. And then ask how you can help. Sometimes we say, my stack of things to do is so deep. The piles are increasing. I can't keep up with the workload I already have. The truth is, you may not get anything added to your list whenever you ask for help. It's called being generous, being contributory, and being that energy of collaboration and being a team player. So you can say within those communications, or even at the end of a call, I just want everybody to know that I'm here to help. Just wanted to see and just let you know that I'm here for you, even though we're working from home. If there's anything I can do, let me know. Another thing here that isn't on the slide, if you're not yet connected via LinkedIn with your cohorts at work, and I know, in the past we've thought, I don't want to connect with my cohorts at work. I don't want to be connected to them because we communicate so much already, and I want to have a more private profile. We are not in the world of private anymore, especially with us working at a distance. I want to make sure that you are connected to your definite cohort that you have right now, and that you stay in communication with them through LinkedIn or some form or fashion. Many teams are going into an actual team chat so that they can have more visibility for all projects, because that was something that they're in the dark about. If you imagine that having team meetings was a regular, some managers are now going to one-on-2 meetings, one-on-1 meetings, things of that nature, to be more focused on the progress of work. And they're missing out on that full team effect that was really a normal for them. So moving into group chats to keep everybody abreast of what you're working on has been something that has definitely helped that. Listening and comprehending. In fact, let me see where I am on time. Listening and comprehending. There's a difference between receptive language and receptive ways of being and resistant ways of being. Receptive, we could, if we were in a room, I'd be having you raise your hand and tell me what those types of things are. For today's discussion, this is just like a really quick touch on that. We want to make sure that we're receptive in our body language, that we're open to what is coming at us or to us, and we are willing to listen and understand and have a dialogue, as opposed to the resistant way that I've been seeing develop through our distance ways of being is things that are real snappy, real minimal conversations, or just surface level, let's just get things done. And that busyness, that haste, that overwhelm that we can have is something that creates resistance. And if you've ever worked with somebody that is in that busy state, always, even their rapid type of language or consideration of their energy and focus on you in a communication, you can feel it. So then we resist that communication. We hold back. We wait till almost its critical state before we actually reach out for this communication. So I give you another challenge, right? Stay in that communication and open yourself up to receptivity, not taking things personally if someone else is having a bad day, just simply saying, I'm going to add to their energy by not fixing them, but maintaining who I am, being jovial, being present, being mindful, and participating. And go for it anyway. Go for it anyway. So stay receptive. And if ever you feel yourself resistant, one of my signs of resistance is where I look on my calendar, I'm like, oh, I forgot it. I didn't prepare for that one, or I've got this meeting coming up, and if I'm rushed, things of that nature. So I will take 2 to 3 minutes, walk down the hallway, get outside, take a fresh breath, fresh air, just move my energy, move my being, touch my toes, do something to break up the monotony of the mind, so that I move out of resistance and reluctance and the hesitation or the feeling of frustration. And I move into receptivity by moving my body, putting breath in my body, and looking forward to the communications. We need to start. Unfortunately, this is a normal now. Many companies are shutting down their major offices and only having remote workforce. And that was something, as those things started coming into the news, I was like, oh, we need more connection, not less. So this is becoming somewhat of a normal. If you find yourself in that, I know that, some of us are looking for new opportunities and new jobs and new careers. If you find yourself being added to a completely remote workforce, you can ask your management and leadership, what types of things do you have in the future are organized or on the horizon to connect the team, to have more team building and team connection. So you can understand what they are doing to remedy or to address everybody's working in a single silo within the confines of their own home, because the human needs connection. We need connection, right? The other thing here is for comprehension, again, back to the previous slide, we can have a lot of assumptions if we're not verifying what we are comprehending from a communication. If you do not have the time availability within the actual communication verbally with someone, you follow up with an email saying, this is what I'm taking away from our meeting today. These are the next steps that I'm responsible for. This is what you've committed to, and just making sure we're all on the same page. And that way, we're not CYA. This is not covering your booty. This is being clear, because we aren't able to pick up those levels of communication that we otherwise would if we were in person. Body language, we're missing a lot of body language here. And especially if people have their video monitor off, you wouldn't even see any of that. And we can only read through tonality. And that's probably one of the least effective ways of understanding where people truly are. So have the comprehension, post a meeting, and then also clarify the expectations of what you have. Let me see, some people, any chats going on? I want to make sure I'm not missing something. Okay, no problem, Bimal. We want to clarify our expectations of what we're asking other people to participate, how to participate, what their outcomes will be, and measurements of that for success, and then what we're committing to and what our measurements of success will be. Clarity is key. Conflict resolution, that's an interesting one. So we have many tools within the Bonfire framework to help with conflict resolution. One of the foremost is our above the line, below the line method to understand what energy am I at? Am I at that, again, receptive energy or resistant energy? Am I in a mindset that feels as though I'm low energy and I don't want to take any more on? Or am I really eager and participatory and mindful toward a communication? So the first level of conflict resolution is your own energy, your own expectations, and your own communications. Once you're clear on that, whenever other people have conflict, it's having courage to talk about it. And again, not taking it personally. I always say we talk about the problem, not the person. And everyone's going to have a different perspective on a problem. So we want to listen to what those perspectives are before we reach to fix it or find a solution. We want to make sure everybody's had a chance to express themselves and be part of that communication, as opposed to just assuming that our perspective on something is the perspective. We want to open that up. The other thing is I challenge us to be more leaders. Like, you could be a recent college graduate in your very first position in a company. We still put on the hat of a leader because we are our own self-leader. We lead ourselves. We, like I said earlier, we get ready for the day. We have a vision for our future. We have who am I becoming? And in one of our earlier communications we had toward the end of last year, we challenged our community to take up what would be your word for the year. That could be a growth word so that you can aim for improving yourself in that way. My particular growth word is optimization. And that is to take everything that has already been built and learn how to optimize to create greater efficiencies. Also, the other word for myself is understanding more of self-time. So there's more take care of myself and have boundaries. And although I love my team and I love working, I like to also take care of myself. So Narjit says here, for conflict resolution, at my last job, it appeared things always spiraled up to management and nobody would talk directly with me. So how to change this type of thing? And I'm glad you're sharing that, because this is going to be one of your first 30, 60, 90 day tasks. Is once you're in a new position, it's in our 30, 60, 90 day plan, we ask that you have a one-on-one meetings with everyone you're going to have direct communication with as far as work efforts and your management. And then you would ask your management, is there anybody else that you would suggest I have one-on-ones with? Maybe it's an internal client within the company. Maybe it's an external client. That way you can set up that rapport at the beginning. And one of the questions or the statements that I have our professionals share is that I want to, I'm so glad that we're having this meeting. I wanted to also share, if ever you feel as though there's a strain or stress between us and our relationship, it's not what I want it to be. Sometimes misunderstandings can arise in any relationship. And the truth is, I'd love for us to have the courage to come together and resolve that conflict amongst ourselves. And that I really value our ability to have open communication around that. And so what you're doing is you're setting the tone. You're setting the tone of the receptivity. You're setting the tone of the invitation that, and we want to understand that there will be stress and strain in communications. Even with the people you love working with, there will be an impasse at some point. It just simply happens. We're all human. So you get to already set that tone. And if you ever feel that there is any kind of strain or stress, I was working with an executive yesterday, and he said, because there's definitely strain and stress in the organization that he works for. And he told me pretty much at the top of our coaching session together, he said, I think there's a coup mounting against me and I don't know why. I feel something in the field, in the force is not with me right now. And so we spoke about it. And, our intuition, our internal guidance system is really smart. So if you ever feel that there's stress or strain or difficulty communicating, or we may be on the different pages, this is part of what we're talking about here, is that clarity, that communication, that over communicate. However, if you feel that, the first thing we need to do is to address it. And the only one to address it is us. So we find the courage, we take breath in our system, and we find that place to have that communication with the person that would more than likely have that conflict, because we're smart that way. And just say, I'd love to have our relationship be better. It just feels like there's a little strain. Maybe it's me. But as soon as we could talk about how we're working together and if everything's good, then that'll just squash that internal concern. And if there's a concern, let's talk about it. Let's, let's address it and do things better. Did that answer your question, Najid?
I think pretty much, yeah. It just seemed like a weird situation there for sure, though, because it seemed like the communication lines were kind of closed off between different people and everything else. And
Yeah.
Maybe it's the environment too, who knows, but how to change the environment to make it work in your favor, I guess, is how the things to get right.
Yeah, and I know you came from an environment where people were really protective of their roles and their responsibilities. And whenever we find ourselves in that type of a culture where people are like, "This is mine, don't touch it," like stay away, and as we work together, you'll learn that is they're coming from significance. They're wanting their significance, and this is who I am and what I do and my role and my title and my team. And whenever people are in that state, we can't change them. But what we can do is we can come from an above the line and energy richness where you'll learn strategies of curiosity and interest. And we're not brown nosing them. We're not cowing down to their significance or ego. We're simply meeting them with an authentic energy that is acknowledging who and where they are and what they are and saying, thank you so much. And I'm here to help. If ever you need some help, I'm part of the team. There's one line that I used with one of my sideline cohorts in another project team for a major deployment of a technology platform for a major oil and gas company. And I sensed that she was in that protective nature. She's like, and I'm like, oh, wow. I don't like to come across as anybody that's trying to steal anything from anybody or take credit for anything. So I'm a team player. And so I remember saying to her in a meeting, we had a one-on-one for project discussion. And I said, maybe it's just me, but I think maybe you've mistaken me as for the enemy, and I don't want to be seen as an enemy here. And she was like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I have. And I said, so fair enough. I'm just want to let you know I'm not the enemy in any regard. I'm definitely for you. And that really just changed the dynamic. She lessened her posturing. And that you mistake me for the enemy is an interesting line to keep in your back pocket every now and then. So as a leader, we want to thank you, Najit, for your question and comment. And so as a leader, we want to embody the characteristics of a leader. I don't care if you're starting out in your career or you're 40 years into that. We want to be a leader, not because we want to be an egotistical leader to have a title and a following and people, you should appreciate me, right? It's not that. Leaders are the people that we end up trusting, we open up to, we see as mentors. They're responsible, they're accountable, trustworthy, communicate well, humble, admit their mistakes, willing to learn and grow, definitely want to see multiple perspectives, and they're flexible. There's so many different qualities of a leader that we can describe, and maybe that could be our next call together is, what are the qualities of a leader and what do I want to work on for myself? So before we have that, we have limited time today. Ask yourself what you want to do to step up to be a better leader for yourself, and what processes and standards do I want to hold myself toward as opposed to be told to, because we can be demanded or told by our employer. The truth is it needs to start with us. Otherwise we'd be resistant to it. Every single one of us is a little bit of a brat. We have that ability to put our thumb in our mouth and go, hey, I'm going to do it my way. So it's better to choose than to be told which way to go. So with that, we want to have healthy boundaries, especially with distance work environments, because I've heard some people and one of our cohorts here who dropped off, he would be first to say that it's hard sometimes to stop, especially if you're working for a global organization. Everybody's on Teams and you can see when people are on and when they're off, and it's almost like you're always accessible. You have to have your own closed door. If you had a office, you close door whenever you have to put focus toward project tasks or things of that nature. So also stand up for your boundaries in your distance work environments so that you can have those negotiated understandings with your management and it will stop the overwhelm for yourself if you always think you have to be on and accessible. How stressful is that? It's crazy. And take care of yourself. Put yourself first. Have a great morning routine, please. It's best to take care of yourself first thing of the day, as opposed to say, I'll do that when I get home from work, because you don't get home from work when you're working from home. So it's your own self-discipline of how that works. I know, Carrie, you and I had worked with that, you know, when you're at work, when you're not at work, when you're on, when you're not on. Boy, because it can be a little bit of a challenge. Do you want to speak toward that, of things that you learned for yourself and your work-life balance while working in Saudi Arabia?
Absolutely. Thank you. One of the challenges is I was there for 2.5 months before everything went into lockdown. And so that's one of those things that after a period of time, you know, and it's exciting and you do it, and then it just kind of gradually every little day something falls off. Perhaps you don't put your makeup on, you roll out of bed, throw your abaya on and get in front. And I think that's one of the things that's really been very helpful, is to set that that routine, to get up, to meditate, or have that private time to yourself, to journal, and then move forward as if you were walking into the office. And so that was one of the things that Tina Marie and I talked about quite a bit, because that was a bit of a challenge for me over there.
Mm-hmm. Especially whenever you start a new position, we want to prove ourselves. We want to show our value because they've said yes to something, we're getting paid for it, and we want to be as productive as possible right at the beginning. So another part of our 30, 60, 90-day plan, thank you, Karen, for sharing that. Part of our 30, 60, 90-day plan, which if you have purchased the Career Essentials course, you will see that the 30, 60, 90 is that we want to know that we are not the hero coming in. There are other heroes in an organization, and if we come in to try and save the day, we can come in as though we're fixing them. Or we'll say, you know, I did this in my past position and this is what was working. They're not ready for that. They barely know you. They want to get to know who you are, what you're about, and what you can contribute. And your first 30 days is definitely learning about the lay of the land, the procedures, the processes, who does what are their roles and responsibilities. And your investigative reporter those first 30 days, even possibly longer, unless they're dropping you right into a project. However, you're not the hero of that project. You're a holder of that project, and you let your management be the hero. And sometimes whenever we're professionals and we've had a lot of experience, and that's a very humbling place to let somebody else be the hero. But whenever you're starting something brand new, there's a cadence of relationship building that we must own and operate from, especially as professionals. So that is in our 30, 60, 90-day plan, along with work-life balance. Do not work yourself 60, 70 hours in a new job in the first weeks, because you will train them that that's who you are. And as soon as you start going back to what you consider normal of 50-hour weeks, which is still not normal, then they're going to wonder, what happened to you? You're slacking. So work-life balance from day one. Day one, honor yourself that way. And honor your family that way if you have a family. And if you're building toward a family, definitely honor that. You need to have balance and discipline. So shares and discussion time. This is where I can take some more questions, speaking directly to what's needed. And it doesn't need to be about this topic. If there's anything coming up around a professional situation, your career advancement, what do I do? What are my next steps, Tina Marie? This is the time that we can talk about those things. What would you love? Any questions? Or any thoughts? Did I hit home with some things here that made sense that you could also say, I experienced this, and had I done something? Yes, Dewey, what would you love to share?
Well, you mentioned early on about being present, and that was something that we'd gone through. Well, fortunately, we did it before we were all on teams, and they referred to it as be here now. And because we had a problem with people being in, maybe it was training or a meeting or whatever, and they're all, looking at their cell phones or doing everything but paying attention, which is rude to whoever's hosting or talking, one, and then they miss out on whatever they're talking about. And then later on, they're going, well, I didn't know that. Well, you would have if you've been paying attention. So
Yeah, it is an interesting new dynamic, especially with even mobile, the devices that we find ourselves with. I was doing a training with an executive team, and it's funny. It's just funny to me that sometimes we hold executives, literally the executive CEOs, COOs, the CFOs, to a standard where we think this wouldn't possibly be how they operate, right? No, they're human. We're in a boardroom, and there must have been 12 at this particular training and discussions, facilitated discussion. And the literal CEO of this one major group was at the end of the table opposite me. And he's like down on his phone, and you can just tell he's texting, he's doing stuff. In fact, he brought his computer in, and he set up his computer, and he's doing stuff. And other people from time to time were doing, it was a habit. And so I stopped the training because he was simply not participating, and everybody's looking at him, and he didn't even notice people were looking at him because he was so engaged in something else. And so he finally looks up and he's like, "What? Did you ask me a question?" And I said, "No, actually, I'm just waiting to see if you're going to be present. It's okay if you're not. If you wouldn't mind leaving the room, that would be most beneficial."
In fact, that's what we ask people. If it's something urgent, with urgent things come up all the time, just excuse yourself and say, "This is urgent. I have to take it," and walk out. So.
Yeah. And the truth is, for this particular gentleman, it wasn't urgent. It was another significance. It's how sometimes we can say, I'm so important and so busy, and I have so many things going on. This is how I need to operate. It's not healthy, though. It's not healthy.
No.
And so I had he was one of my executive coaching clients. So we had a one-on-one, and I said, this is not a healthy pattern for you. You need to have boundaries. You need to shut off other things, because it'll be the same reason why we text and drive, right? And so I said, you need to shut things off. You need to be fully present, because that's how you're going to gain trust and respect of your team and of your cohort. And if you do not do this, you have already, I'm sure, lost respect. They've lost respect for you, and they've lost trust for you. They're not going to come to you, and you're going to be passed over for opportunities, and you're going to wonder why. And that's very painful. So our personal habits of being present and mindful, because the truth is, the world can wait, and we can have boundaries and understanding of how we can produce our work efforts in a very healthy way. We need not go at the pace and the speed of the world, because the pace and the speed of the world is a very unhealthy pace and speed. And for you to have fulfillment and happiness in yourself, your family, and your career, we need to set our own personal boundaries and abide by them, not because we're being stubborn or mean or rude. It's because it's the healthy, mindful place to be. And when we find ourselves in a work environment that is not honoring those, come here and we'll help you with negotiating terms and what courageous conversations to have to bring that back into a sense of order and peace. And you are all hardworking professionals, yet we do not need to prove our value and our worth. That happened when they hired you. You simply need to stay the course and be steady and be mindful. Any other questions? Yes, Kara.
I just would like to add to that. I think one of the things that I have found that's been very helpful is to ask to prioritize everything that you're working on. If they're constantly dumping things on you and you just literally are overwhelmed, or you're sitting in meetings working on something else, I think it's important. And that's one of the things that always works. Prioritize for me. What is most critical? What do I need to focus on? And I know that always helped me.
There you go. Thank you so much. I love that. And that's another segue to something I wanted to also add. For those that are interviewing, if it comes up in your interview, a question from your future potential employer, how do you maintain a work-life balance? Because work-life balance is a very big conversation right now in our world, and it's a needed one. Your simple question or answer there is, I give 100% of who I am during the work efforts and the work hours that I have committed to and we've agreed upon. Outside of that, I do have a personal life, and I commit to that also 100%, so that I can maintain my mindfulness and my energy and my dedication and my appreciation for the position that I'm in. And that's a very honoring, respectful way to be, right? And any employer that's going to want you to work 24/7 or be on call afterwards isn't really up with the times. Because unless you're running your own business and you're a stockbroker and you're doing global stock trading, there's no need for the 24/7. We have technology and expectations of clients and systems that do a lot of our work for us, outside of the hours that typical 20 years ago, it was harder to maintain that, right? Any other questions or thoughts or comments? In fact, right now is the time that we do this one thing. And so you're going to learn this as a habit within our coaching sessions, right? What are some things that you took away from today that made your time here absolutely worth it? And I'm going to call on you. So I'm going to start with Kara, and then I'm going to move to Narjit. And I want to make sure I'm saying your name, Narjit or Najit. Whenever I talk to you, I'm going to get that completely down. So we're going to start with Kara. What are some takeaways from today that made your time here absolutely worth it?
You know, there's two things that I wrote down, and I think this is just a reminder, and that is that conflict resolution starts with your energy. It's just a nice reminder. There's two of you involved, but it's your energy that you have to focus on. So, and then simply your sentence. So I'm afraid that you might see me as the enemy. I love that as a way of kind of smoothing things over and having that conversation. So those are two things that I've walked away with today. Thank you.
Thank you. And Narjit.
No, I say Narj, but I mean, you know what? Narjit's how the Indian way is.
Mm-hmm.
But since I grew up in Canada from the age of like 9 months, I've been called Narj by everybody from the age of 4 onwards. So I've gone with Narjit since then.
Narjit. Okay, good. I'm saying okay. So what are some takeaways for you today, sir?
Well, like really it's the conflict resolution parts to like really how to like resolve conflicts before, I guess, like people kind of escalate things. And maybe some people just want to escalate things too. I know some people just have a habit of like pushing everything up, and they have the weekly managerial calls or whatever else before they talk to you even. That's kind of a hard thing to catch though, but yeah. Manager, and you're already in trouble and you can't do anything.
Yeah. So whenever you've got your manager that knows it before you knew it, another way of being is saying, thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. I appreciate this. And if at all possible, and sometimes you don't know who it was. If you would tell your manager, if at all possible, what I really love, if you could communicate with whoever's having the disturbance with me, which is not my way of being, I'm not wanting that in any way. If you could please advise them to come to me first, I'm so open to that level of communication before we involve management. I would really appreciate that. And you allow the manager to then be your advocate. Because you show yourself as a peacemaker and a collaborator and a team person. And the next time that person or personality would come to them, they would have the courage, hopefully, to say, you know what would be great is, as Narjit said, that you can go to him with these types of conversations, if you wouldn't mind. If you guys could have that one-on-one conversation, see if you can find a solution among yourselves, that would be great. And then you involve me if you can't. And that takes a strong leader. It takes a strong manager. And sometimes we need to form that relationship with our manager to know that we give them the courage to have that conversation as well, right?
Yeah. And I also liked all the other points you mentioned too, like about like kind of like interact like away from people in this kind of time we're in right now, where we can't be like talking to people one-on-one anymore. And and really it is pretty it was pretty weird to be far apart from everybody else, even in my prior company. Like, and actually my prior company, we would have like group conversations once a week, but people wouldn't show their faces. It would be like just audio, not video. So it was really, really challenging.
Yeah, very awkward, isn't it? Yeah. So I do funny things like we have some weekly meetings with our team. And I'll say, you know, I love to see your faces. Miss seeing your face. Things like that. Just to poke a little bit of energy into that when it's appropriate. So then we're going to go to Dewey and then Lucas. Dewey, what are some takeaways from today?
Well, most of the people I work with are in the UK. And so even before the pandemic, I was having regular video calls. And it's always good, I guess, to hear new ideas about communication, ways of communicating, and reinforcing ideas that you already know.
Yeah, There you go.
So,
And Dewey and I used to work together a long time ago. We won't say how many
yes.
years, right?
Yeah, it seems like it was just yesterday.
There you go, it was. And it was interesting because Dewey was one of our project leads that you were out on, assignment in different companies, but we always found a way to get together, right?
Yep.
And that leads to great communication, great relationships. So Lucas, what are some takeaways for you today in our communications?
The being present was a good piece for me because in the past, even when I've been on calls with 20 or more people, like I'll turn off my video just in case you got to jump up or stretch or do whatever. But you can't do that when you're in a meeting in person. So there's no reason to do it while you're on video because, like you said, you get to see the face that has more interaction, and also it shows some accountability that you're not sitting there on your phone or doing something else. It makes you more engaged and more involved because you're conscious that people can see you.
Definitely. And they trust that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can trust that. Thank you so much. Thank you for your addition. Thanks for being part of what we're doing here.
I forgot to mention one thing related to that. If you've got really long calls, schedule in like a 5-minute break periodically.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you're a trainer or over something that's delivery of that, you do need to give the breaks. Definitely. And Leisha, what are some takeaways for you today, ma'am?
Well, thanks, Tina Marie. First thing would be about communicating with the person you report to. I want to improve that. Another thing was talking about coworkers. And one day I called both of my coworkers and I told them what a joy it was to work with them. And how much I miss being with them. And I don't know what possessed me to do it, maybe because it's one of the things I really appreciate about my job. And things changed. We started having these groups. We were talking on text before, but now it was a little more personal, and we shared things and we asked if anybody, I'm in the office today, what can I do for you guys that are at home? And so anyway, it really was it made me feel good.
That's awesome. Acknowledgement goes so far. It's like water in the desert for many of us.
Yeah. And then the last thing was about the hours, the hours, because I've always been one of those people who works and works and works and works. And I can't even imagine starting a new job and only working 40 hours. But I really see the reason, and I really see how those expectations get set up. And so thank you for that.
You're welcome. We train people on how to treat us, and so we can't have resentment down the line if we didn't have our own boundaries. I mean, we can, but don't hold it for long, right? We get to choose how to be. Thank you so much, everyone, for being part of the first Career Professionals call here of a new year. And as I'm putting here, I'm going to have Pam also share. If you know someone who would love to be a great professional like you and learn more skills, please do lead them to the Bonfire. Our Bonfire method's been proven, and we've helped thousands of people, and we'd love to help your friends as well. And so, Pam, takeaways for you and any inspiration for our group?
Well, Kara started with my number one takeaway with the conflict resolution, but it was also the comprehension. I liked what you said about following up a meeting or a call with what you got out of it and what your expectations might be of what the other person or people are going to do, and let them know what you're going to do. I like that.
Definitely needed. And your management will really appreciate it whenever you do that, because then there's clarity. And we have another call coming up this month. That's the Bonfire Connect. What day is that? It's always the last Tuesday of the month, so that's easy to remember.
That's going to be January the 26th.
There you go. And what we do that evening is we talk about all aspects of life. We'll be learning some new tools, strategies. We're probably going to start with the above the line, below the line this month. And then also we'll tap into the 5 C's so we can learn some new ways of being to not allow the lower mind, the saboteur mind, to take over our thinking or sabotage or derail our goals and our aspirations for our life in this beautiful new year. And so thank you for lending your time. I ended on time. I love it when I do that. Have a beautiful day and go enjoy. And for those that are not in session yet, please book your session with your coach, and I'll see you guys soon.
Hey.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.